Everybody showing up and those of you watching at home. My name is Ian Evans and this is Chris Bulkley. We'll be talking about two grant opportunities tonight. The first one is Prop 47, Round 2 funding. But the funder for that is the Board of State and Community Corrections. There we go. So as I said, my name is Ian Evans. I work for Yolo County Health and Human Services Agency, and I'm the manager over the Forensic Substance Use and Homeless Services.
I'm Chris Bulkley. I'm the supervisor of the district attorney. I supervise the neighborhood court diversion division.
So we have a current Prop 47 funded program in Yolo County called Steps to Success that Chris will talk a little bit more about later on. But the point of tonight's meeting and the 3 previous meetings that we've had, that was the first slide up throughout the county, is to get input on our application for Round 2 funding for Prop 47. As you can see here, the kind of the background, the summary of it is the funder is the Board of State and Community Corrections. The purpose is to provide mental health, substance use services to and be a diversion program for individuals involved in the criminal justice system. The target population, according to the BSCC, is people arrested, charged with, or convicted with a criminal offense and who have either a mental health or substance use or both. The grant term, as you can see, there's 3 different stages of the grant term, so they give you a chance for implementation to kind of get your staffing up, get things, contracts in place, get things rolling. Service delivery, which is the bulk of the grant, that's when we're actually delivering the services, engaging, enrolling people, providing the ongoing case management and other services we'll talk about in a minute, and then data evaluation to see if we met the outcome measures that were that we proposed. So here's the overall grant priorities according to the BSCC. Providing housing-related support. Overall, they want to see that the services are trauma-informed, that we promote a regional approach. Again, while we're doing input sessions in Winters, West Sacramento, Davis, and Woodland. We also had a consumer input session last week, and we're meeting with a lot of the homeless service providers this week to get their input as well. They want to consider restorative justice as a piece of it, and that we're looking to leverage existing funding. And then the other community-based services you can see are case management, civil legal services, and job skills training. Oh. So as I mentioned, we're doing various stakeholder engagement processes. So one of the things that the BSCC scores us on is what kind of input we received from the community in drafting our grant proposal and how we incorporated that. In the previous Round 1 funding of Prop 47, out of, I think it was 23 or 27 projects that got funded, we scored 3rd highest out of those. And so we looked at the 2 proposals that scored better than us the first round and looked at ways to kind of improve our community input session for this round so that we could hopefully score even higher. The 2 counties that scored above us were LA County and Riverside County, I think.
San Francisco.
San Francisco. So as Jake likes to say, we're hitting above our weight class, fighting above our weight class there in YOLO here. The meeting I talked about this Friday is with the Homeless Poverty Action Coalition. So that's our homeless continuum care here in YOLO County. It's about 40 to 50 different providers that provide services to the homeless population. We had the meeting last week with the individuals currently living homeless to get their input on how these services can be rolled out and best suit their needs. Chris has helped facilitate 2 law enforcement agency meetings. I think they both happened already. One's happened, one's upcoming. We have probation currently doing a survey that's set to close this week to gather some necessary information from their current probation population to determine what the needs look like in terms of homelessness, mental health, substance use, so that we can better identify the clients that we're targeting here. And then we have 3 multidisciplinary team meetings that we've talked about this application at. We have one in Woodland, one in Davis, one in West Sacramento. And the next steps will be forming the local advisory committee, which is a requirement of the grant.
I just want to say one thing about our community engagement. If you're out there watching this live stream, if you're watching this later on video, you want to make a comment or you have a question about the grant proposal, we have an email address, which is prop47@yolocounty.org. That's prop47@yolocounty.org. So if you have a question or input you want to provide, please send us an email.
If you missed it, don't worry, we'll say it lots more throughout the presentation. You'll have it memorized by the end.
But there'll be an audience participation moment at some point.
Brad, turn it over to you, I think, for our current programs, right?
Okay, we have a couple diversion programs right now. First off is neighborhood court. That was a pilot project started in Davis. We received JAG funding to expand it, and we were in 3 major cities in 2015. We're looking to expand it fully throughout the county moving forward. That's a restorative justice process where community members use that process to hold a person who commits a crime accountable for their actions. We have our Prop 47, which is the Step to Success program. That is focusing on individuals who have a mental health and or substance use disorder. The eligibility for that program is much larger as far as types of offenses and severity of the offenses. And that goal is to get individuals engaged in treatment. There is a housing component for that. We have a number of people that I would call homeless in that program, although it's not designed for the homeless. When Step Success launched, we also expanded our neighborhood court to include individuals if they're a full-service partner with HSA or the ACT team Turning Point and already have case management. We're diverting them into a neighborhood court conference using the same model that we have for Step Success, where a clinician or case manager participates with that person in the conference. And then our mental health court, in addition, intervention court, in some instances would be diversion if we have a deferred entry of judgment, which is a person enters a plea and their agreement calls them to complete one of those programs. They complete the program, their case would be dismissed. So in that way, those programs could be considered diversion. And these are the completion rates we have for our base neighborhood court program. We're averaging almost 93% for the 1,600 individuals that have gone through the program to date. And here's our recidivism rates. There's a lot of different definitions for recidivism, and we measure 2, one being arrest, and another being conviction. And we like our rates so far. And then as far as the S2S enrollment, we now have 41 individuals enrolled in the program. We do have an extensive outreach process or assessment process where they're going to be assessed and have to fully buy into the program. And that's why it's such a large outreach effort. And the program really kind of launched fully in July 1st. We were kind of flying the planes, we were building it. We're partnered with community care health centers, and they were staffing up as we were launching the program. I think we still have one person, one vacancy to look into actually put into that team. And so I'm optimistic that next month we'll have a fully staffed team. We're also partnering with Empower YOLO for the housing component. That was a $6 million grant, and $1 million of that was allocated to certain types of housing assistance to make sure people are housed when they're going through treatment. And that's why we have that 16 people right now are engaged in receiving housing assistance. The mental health court was a new program we also started in 2013. And the goal of that program was to reduce recidivism, to reduce incarceration time for people with mental illness, to reduce state and local hospitalizations, and to increase outpatient treatment, which is the best way of, the most economical way of addressing mental health issues in the criminal justice system. And so we had a significant reduction in jail days for individuals pre and post in the last fiscal year. And as far as our hospital stays, we had reductions. We looked at our numbers in the first 4 years of the program, and those numbers also showed a significant reduction in incarceration, recidivism, both local and state hospitalizations, and then significant increase in outpatient engagement.
So the draft proposal for this round 2 funding would be the BSCC requirements I mentioned earlier, that those that are arrested, charged, or convicted with an eligible Prop 47 offense, that they have a mental health or substance use condition, or both. And then what we're proposing to add is individuals who are homeless or who have a recent history of homelessness. Our partners are similar partners that we have on the current Prop 47 Steps to Success program: the District Attorney's Office, HHSA, probation, public defender, and community-based organizations. Chris mentioned the 3 that are currently funded under the existing Prop 47 program: Communicare, Empower YOLO, and Legal Services in Northern California. The funding for the current proposal is outlined up there, up to $6 million over a 45-month period is what we would be going for. You score higher if you contract out more to community-based organizations. And so our proposal is to contract out 70% of the total funds to community-based organizations through a combination of sole sourcing and a competitive RFP process. So the proposed project framework is pretty simple, as you can see. The district attorney's office would look at the diversion eligibility, and then if they determine the crime is an eligible offense, they would refer them to the program enrollment, and the staff from there would do outreach, assessment, and case management. One of the things that we're considering changing a little bit with this proposal from the current Steps to Success, as Chris mentioned, there's a long kind of outreach and engagement period before folks are officially enrolled in the program. One of the areas we're looking at changing is just having that program enrollment happen right at the beginning, as you can see there, so that they're enrolled in the program and then all those services are delivered. So we'd love to get some feedback around that piece. The diversion component.
Actually, we'll talk about that. All the chiefs for law enforcement agencies in the county have agreed that beyond just people with new misdemeanor offenses, that if we have a violation of probation for a felony or a violation for PRCS, which is post-release community supervision with probation, or from mandatory supervision, which occurs when a person commits a certain type of felony and they get a split sentence, where they're going to spend part of their time in our, what used to be called our county jail, now we call our local prison, and then they're on supervision. It sounds a lot like probation, based on what's happened with realignment in the Prop 47. So if a person has a technical violation, they pick up a new misdemeanor offense, we're going to take a look at also diverting not only the new offense, but also the technical violations if they have mental health and/or addiction needs. And they're also what we call street homeless. It's how I define it, people that are living on the streets, unsheltered, for that population. That's the target group for this grant, is the unsheltered, street homeless, chronically homeless, however you want to define it. We had a recent PIT count. Numbers went up significantly. And so we're really focusing on that group for this grant. And the reason we are expanding beyond just new misdemeanor offenses, in our first law enforcement engagement, we were getting referrals from the agencies to look at for Steps to Success, but they weren't eligible for that program because they're on felony probation. They were on a supervised mandatory supervision or PRCS. And if that's the population that our law enforcement agencies are referring to us, that are living on the streets and need assistance for mental health and addiction, we wanted to open up the diversion eligibility to include those individuals. And so we just got the agreement from all the chiefs today, so I can actually talk about it. It was part of our goal to expand, but we're on board. And then we're doing the outreach for the homeless individuals Friday after. They asked about parole, which is a whole nother can of worms that we can look at. What we really want to do is get individuals that are criminal justice involved, that are violent in terms of their supervision, who have mental health and addiction issues, get them engaged, get them off the street into housing and treatment, try and reduce those numbers in the community.
So I'm going to run through just each component of the program. Let's talk about program enrollment. Our proposal is that it would happen immediately upon referral from the DA's office. Outreach would happen, which includes outreach and referral from a number of locations there. You can see if you have ideas of other places that outreach could occur for individuals living homeless that have mental health or substance use needs, we'd love to hear that feedback. These are some of the ones that we frequently interact with and get referrals from for various services currently. Assessment, so looking at, we would be using what's called the self-sufficiency matrix out of Snohomish County, Washington, and looking at 4 components: housing, behavioral, and physical health. So behavioral health would include the mental health and substance use needs, and then their physical health needs, their criminal justice involvement, and income. So we look at things like, do they have an ID? Are they connected with CalFresh or general assistance? If they're SSI eligible, or do they have an application in, or do they need assistance with that? Are they able to work? Do they just need like a job readiness program? And then case management. So targeting, again, some of those things I just mentioned, and then linkage or direct care for physical health, mental health, substance use, looking at the risk of recidivism on the criminal justice side, and then possible flex funding for housing related support. So like Chris mentioned in the current project, over the span of the grant, there's a total of $1 million for housing related stuff. So that could be used for security deposits, first, last month's rent. Empower YOLO has used it to secure 2 houses now, I think, in West Sacramento that have a total of 6 or 7 beds each. And so that's serving some of the current Steps to Success participants. So be looking at other ways to use flexible funding for housing for this population.
I think one of the ideas for the housing was to use the probation has the IGT house. Do you want to talk about that, Sean? Sean Scher is the probation officer for our Step to Success program, and the IGT house has been one of the successful housing projects we've had for felon probationers.
Yes, the sorry, I have some notes here because that's not. So the IGT house, it was a grant that was awarded to the probation department by the state. We're working alongside the Yolo County Housing Authority that actually purchased the house. So I believe they have it on what's called a master lease. We've got space for up to 6 probationers in the house. Currently, we have 5 in the home to date. And I believe we've been up and running for approximately a year, roughly. About 16 probationers have gone through the house, and the goal is that they have some place to stay, some stability, and they work with their probation officer for treatment, employment assistance, and everything like that. And those are all their goals that they have to meet in order to stay in the house and move forward.
Yeah, I think with a lot of our programs over the last 5 or 6 years, we've learned from things that didn't go well or things that did go well. In our mental health court, we had a homeless individual that was not successful because she wasn't able to make appointments because she was living out of a shopping cart. And all her belongings had to go with her. She couldn't make the court dates, and she was eventually moved out of that program. We took her up in our homeless neighborhood court and put her in transitional housing, I think, for 2 months. You have to do certain things to include, since you're qualified as seriously mentally ill, going to the wellness center and engaging in her treatment. Or we're looking at a 180-day residential treatment program because she also had methamphetamine issues. Well, she engaged, she got herself a job at Walmart, I believe it was, and got herself housing. So she's housed and employed, and that was because we put her in housing for a period of time. And at that point in her life, she was willing to engage, and it worked out for her. With our homeless neighborhood court, the idea was to provide case management and services for 6 months. And what we found is that 6 months wasn't long enough. To be successful with the chronically homeless population, we're maybe looking at 18 months or 2 years with support and also case management to make sure that once a person is housed in permanent housing, they stay housed. And so, again, we had a 6-month limit. The idea was we'd hand case management off from that person from our program to some other entity, which we couldn't find. And so we had people we were dealing with for a year to a year and a half. And so we modified how we were our approach and our grant applications when we learned what worked and what didn't work. In some cases, we ended up using money for the homeless neighborhood court to put a person into housing for a period of time to get them housed or to augment their income while they were looking for a job, just to get a job and be successful. And so those were in some ways gambles that the person was going to follow through. And a number of instances it was successful and they're permanently housed and off the streets. And so over the last 5 years, it's been a learning experience as we experiment and try new things. And if it doesn't work, we just fire and find a different way of attacking that approach. One of the other aspects of our program was mental health court, addiction intervention court, step success, or the program we're looking at is we anticipate people are going to fail along the way. It's not reasonable to think that you're going to have a person who's mentally ill or has an addiction who's just going to stop using cold turkey. We have to, when they relapse, find out why they relapse, how do we address that so that they can be successful going forward. Again, it's learning from each individual. It may take some time for individuals to buy into their medication and their treatment program. And that, again, is a work in progress. So I want to say a lot of our very successful mental health court graduates had relapses and problems along the way where we had to figure out what was going on with them, adjust what we're doing, adjust what they were doing, and then they're able to be successful going forward. We try and reduce the use of incarceration. This is one example. We had one of our mental health court individuals moved out of a kind of managed care location into her own room, and she decided to celebrate and consume alcohol, and she drank too much. She got arrested for drunk in public. She spent a night in jail. She was picked up by her case manager. She and the clinician had a long conversation with her, and during that conversation, our participant volunteered, I can't drink anymore. I really, I thought I could when I moved into my own place, but I really can't. And so the light bulb went on for her. For a traditional felony probation, we filed violation of probation, and there'd be a punitive sanction for her going back into custody for a period of time. For the seriously mentally ill, if you put them in custody, you may destabilize them and cause more harm long-term than short-term. So for her, there was a moment of insight that she had after she spent the night in jail. So there wasn't a reason for further incarceration. So we didn't do that. And so we're looking at these programs, we have to be flexible and look at how we're going to address mistakes or problems that occur, find solutions, make sure our participants are buying into those solutions so they can be successful going forward. And so that's kind of a lot of what's happened over the last 5 years with these different programs.
I think just adding a little bit onto that, and then I think we'll move on to questions after this, but one of the things that we're constantly doing, we have a few different groups on the criminal justice side that have a variety of members involved in each one that's constantly looking at kind of what are gaps in our system. And between some of the programs that Chris laid out at the beginning, neighborhood court, steps to success, mental health court, and addiction intervention court, there was kind of this identified gap that was needed to be filled with this homeless population, individuals living homeless that have these issues that, like Chris had mentioned, wasn't the original targeted population of the current Prop 47 Steps to Success program. And so this would be an opportunity to target those individuals and have the rest of the continuum serving the individuals that those programs were designed to serve. So it's this constant kind of review of what our current criminal justice programs and system looks like, and where can we help fill in gaps with different grant opportunities or other funding.
And there it is on Prop 47 at yellowcounty.org slide. So if you have comments or questions, we look forward to getting them via email. And even if you are viewing this a couple days from now, if you have comments or questions, we invite the emails.
Do we have any questions from the room?
So what's the alternative to doing this?
Oh, I ran a 5K for the first time in 2.5 years, and the team Corona, so I'm not moving too quickly.
You just stampede?
Yeah, it wasn't pretty for me at least.
My question is, what's the alternative to doing this?
So I think the alternative is that we wouldn't have this program there. I mean, we have the population need there. We don't have the finalized numbers from our 2019 point in time count, which Chris was referencing earlier. But if you look back at the last one that we did in 2017, which was sheltered and unsheltered, there's a significant increase in the individuals living homeless that have severe mental illness or any identified mental illness. There's an increase in the individuals living homeless that have substance use issues. If you look at the general like Medi-Cal population and what that percentage looks like there versus individuals living homeless and the needs there. And again, one of you can speak a little more towards the current Prop 47 steps to success, but there's certain services and certain interventions that need to happen specific to individuals living homeless that you may not need if you're dealing with somebody who's not homeless but also has mental health or substance use needs, in terms of looking at like landlord relationship building, looking at budgeting, Yolo County Housing does like rent ready curriculum, stuff like that, that I think this program could help target that isn't available comprehensively in one other program in and of itself currently.
I think to answer your question, if we don't get this grant, we're going to continue to do what we're doing, which is have fewer resources for this population. I believe that the PIT numbers have just about doubled as far as the unsheltered homeless from the initial responses. Now, those surveys have to be vetted. I think those initial numbers show a significant increase. And I think the chief told me that the winter's population didn't get counted because the Puda Creek flooded the night that I think the 9 people that are in the creek, so we didn't get the winners count because they moved probably across the county line out of the floodplains or somewhere else that couldn't be located. What we're trying to do is find resources that we don't have to address that problem, which is this chronically homeless a group of individuals that have mental health and or substance use disorders, so we can get them treatment, get them off the street. So we'll be doing the same thing we are right now. Our goal is to get more resources to focus on those individuals and get them off the streets and into some sort of treatment and housing. Again, all these programs are voluntary. There is a population out there that does not want to engage in treatment, and we would have a traditional prosecution for those individuals, but in a post realignment Prop 47 world, where drug possession is a misdemeanor. Our jail is now a local prison handling felonies that used to go to state prison. We don't have beds to incarcerate that population to try and really incentivize engagement. So now we're finding ways with resources, having a bigger carrot, because we don't have much of a stick for a lot of these people anymore, to get them to engage. For the ones that don't engage, we do what we can. But again, we're trying to incentivize engagement, incentivize change. And it may take a number of engagements with individuals before they buy in and actually decide they want to. And that's what we saw in our homeless program, we see in our mental health court. Sometimes takes multiple engagements before they actually get the buy-in, where they're willing to really engage and where they can be successful.
Just a comment. I mean, if you look at the statistics that you just showed, less than a 5% recidivism rate, a 95% reduction in incarceration, and 100% reduction in hospitalizations. So, well,
and that's for mental health court. And mental health court will take up to 15 people at one time. Mental health court has synchronized supervision and case management. And so there's an assigned probation officer for the mental health court and addiction intervention court population that works closely with HHSA in the case management and treatment. So you'll have them going out together for visits. Mental health court meets, AIC meet every other week, so there's judicial engagement. There's a lot of structure to that program and a lot of collaboration between HHSA and probation, my office, the public defender, and the courts to try and really work with these people to get them to be successful. And that's the model that we took with that collaborative process for Step Success. So you have community care health centers and our probation officer here who's actually embedded with them. So they're working together. We want to have more of that collaborative process with a probation officer that we're looking at funding for this program. Also, whoever ends up getting the services side, the CBO that gets that, to have that collaboration of working together for the problem-solving component. And I don't expect we're going to have the same recidivism rates with our Step Success population, or this one is a much more challenging population. To be honest, if we had a 50% success rate with this population, I'd be ecstatic for the chronically homeless, getting them off the streets, but I'm not sure we're going to get there. But everyone we get off the streets to be successful is success. So we have to, because they're all different. They'll have different issues. There's not a one-size-fits-all solution for that population.
We have a live question.
We have a live question.
Yes. So if they aren't willing to get help, what do we do?
We have a traditional prosecution. And when they come to court, we have a offer, or they have a chance for a jury trial if they want to do that. They get representation by defense counsel. And depending on what their offense is, we ask for punitive sanctions. And we can put them on probation. We can ask the judge to order certain types of treatment that they participate in. If they're unwilling to do that, they can get a straight jail sentence, or they may accept that. And then if they don't follow through on that, we can do a violation of probation. But it's important to note that about 50% of our Prop 47 defendants who are arrested never show up in court, they blow it off. And so getting them to court can be very challenging. And so we're trying to find ways to make that easier to get that population engaged in their cases and move forward. And it's a big problem where before Prop 47 or realignment, someone arrested for a simple possession would be a felony. They go to jail and they show up in court. Now they're not showing up in court. If they don't show up in court, we can't engage them that way. And we do have outreach where we try and engage people on the streets or when they're arrested with a referral from law enforcement. At that point, we have had some successful referrals. But again, if they don't engage, we have limited options.
I think from the housing and the services piece of it, the diversion opportunity is great for this population because, like Chris mentioned, if you get a charge and don't show up and you get a notice to, failure to appear and things keep kind of stacking on, it makes it harder to get housed later on. So if we're able to identify these folks early on, get them into this program and it's diversion, so the charge can be dismissed at the end, we prevent them from going further into homelessness or further into the criminal justice system, which is helpful. If they decide not to, participate, like Chris said, there's various outreach and treatment engagement options we have depending on the need. We have a homeless services team with the county. We have substance use case managers. That's part of their role is going out for these folks, engaging them, trying to build that motivation over time so that maybe the next time it comes around, they are willing to participate or they're engaging in other services, even if they passed up this opportunity. We also have, as we mentioned before, in Woodland, West Sacramento, and Davis, we have the monthly homeless multidisciplinary team meetings. So there's often cases that come up there that usually about 15 to 20 folks show up to those meetings in each city every month. And it's some of the difficult cases where folks are challenging to engage for a variety of reasons. And so we problem solve at kind of each entry point, what services or what interventions we can target things. engage those folks. That would continue.
So does the Public Defender's Office support this program? They aren't here tonight to back this, but is the Public Defender's Office doing things to help get some of the Prop 47 offenders into court, into this program, and get them to participate? And do they play a role in helping along with things?
For the first three of these presentations, we had public defender staff taking notes. They didn't make it tonight. I think the scheduling issues, but I don't want to put words in Tracy Olson's mouth, but the defense bar supports our programs for diversion. Our neighborhood court's a pre-filing diversion program, which has certain benefits to it. What I mean by pre-filing, we charge them with a crime, we file a document with a complaint in Villa County Superior Court, and that's how the court finds out about the case. And that's a public document, so future employers could look that up. And so for our neighborhood court program, we do a pre-filing. For our homeless neighborhood court, since there's such a high number of individuals who don't show up in court, that was a post-filing program. And a lot of those individuals have a criminal record already. And we had the same post-filing for the Step Success, and anticipate also for this cohort 2 for the Prop 47 post-filing, because for those programs, they'll be placed on supervised OR or a probation officer supervising them in these programs. When we have programs that result in dismissals, if they're successful, that's a positive from the defense bar. I work very closely with Allison Zubella, who's the Deputy Chief Public Defender, and a lot of our mental health court and our Step Success participants. Is one of the issues we had, which led to an expansion of Step Success to low-level felonies, is if we have someone, which programs are better fit for them. And we have a lot of collaboration on that. If we have individuals in Step Success that can't get to court, but they want to be represented by the public defender, we can give them a phone number. And for that program, they'll accept representation and show up in court and make the court appearances on their behalf, as long as they're engaged in the treatment component of the program. So as far as that collaborative process, and we're building upon that, there was a certain amount of trust that we developed in our mental health court program where it's problem solving. And so we expanded that trust in different areas, and Step Success is one outgrowth of that. I wanted Allison Zubella participating in all of our Step Success program meetings. They have a public defender voice in there. Also a level of transparency so they can see what we're doing to expand upon that trust, so we can sit down and resolve certain types of cases that qualify for these programs. If there's no trust there, you have a hard time resolving in a diversion program.
I believe they participated in the local advisory committee for the
Yes.
current Prop 47 project as well. And as we mentioned, we need to form a local advisory committee for the cohort 2, the round 2 funding, and I imagine they would have a representative on that as well. Other questions? Any other live questions? No?
It's our first live question on the internet, so it's a historic moment here in our outreach for this grant.
Are they working to get our neighborhood court to winners? Yes. I was wondering if you're working on having neighborhood court make its way to winners.
Do you want to take a short break and switch over to
I
neighborhood
do.
court?
Well, we are. We have a 7 o'clock presentation on neighborhood court. And one of our goals is to expand into winters, do conferences here, recruit volunteers here, and take winners cases either for the Ellsworth neighborhood court or the Step Success program, or if we have one for cohort 2, to do those conferences in winners with winners residents resolving those cases using our restorative justice process. So we take it. If there's no more questions, we can take a break, but we're also live streaming and recording that one at 7 o'clock. So I don't want to start that. Someone may actually tune in at 7 for the live stream, and I don't want to have them miss it. So if there's no more questions on this, we can sign off until 7 o'clock, and we'll take a break.
All right, thank you very much for being here and thanks for watching online.
So you ran the 5K yesterday?
I wouldn't really call
We
it
shipped it off.
running.
Okay.
I was told I wasn't